Hello, it's me. I'm in the kitchen today. Can you imagine? Listen, this is what I'm going to do today, and I want to share this with you. Oftentimes, I prepare food ahead of time, but I'm not preparing meals necessarily. What I am preparing are ingredients. And today I'm going to prepare some Great Northern beans for the freezer. And once I have them frozen, I can incorporate them in a lot of different dishes. And that's the point of making the beans ahead, draining them, cooking them, draining them, freezing them, because that way I have access to good, wholesome, very inexpensive ingredients to incorporate into other dishes or make a main dish out of them. I think sometimes we get a little bit crazy in the meat department. That's no pun really, but when it comes to buying meat, because we're thinking, oh, I have to buy this meat, I have to buy this meat. But there are a lot of other protein sources besides animal protein, like, for example, Great Northern beans. Beans are an excellent source of protein if we take advantage of them, and they are very, very inexpensive. This particular bag of beans came from Dollar General, and it was under $2, and there's 2 pounds of beans. So that's a lot of nourishment, a lot of protein. And beans are something you can just, I'm just going to cook half of this package and reserve the rest for another time. And so for less than $1, I'm going to have a beautiful amount of protein. And you know, beans swell up, they expand, and they're really a perfect food, protein food. Okay, so so what we're going to do today, oh, and another thing, they're low in calories in and of themselves. They're high in nutrition, and they are low in calories, okay? So, and we have directions actually on the back. So if you're not familiar with how to do beans, always look at the directions. When in doubt, follow the directions. Okay, I wanted to show you too what I did the other day. This is a bag of frozen white rice that I did the other day, and this is another item I like to keep in my freezer. I cook some rice ahead, and I put it in a freezer bag, and then I can use it in other dishes that I'm making. Or I can, if I just want a plain and simple side dish, I can just take the rice out, warm it up, and it's all ready to go. I don't really have to do anything else to it, okay? So it's things like that that facilitate cooking good meals and nutritious meals without a lot of effort, because with a small amount of effort on the front end, you can have a big result on the opposite end, okay, when you're really ready to cook a meal. And I know that you're all busy, you have families, you're working. I've been there, and I understand that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these beans, and I'm going to rinse them really, really well in my colander. Very well. I'm going to make sure there's no stones or anything in them. And then I'm going to put them in my kettle. I'm going to cover them with cold water. No salt or anything will go in the beans. I'm going to cover them with cold water, and then I'm going to bring them up to a boil. I'm going to let them boil at a pretty good rate until some foam, like a foam that forms on the top. And what I am doing is I am going to degas these beans. Plus, we're usually instructed to soak them overnight. but I never do that. I just do the quick soak with the boil, and that's all I do. So I don't have to do anything the night before. Okay? All right. I'm going to rinse these and get them in the pan, and then bring them up to a boil, and I will show you what that looks like. Keep in mind too, I'm just going to use about a pound of these beans. Okay? All right. Stick with me and I'll show you how this works. All right. Now what I've done, I've rinsed my beans very well, and then I put them in my kettle, and I have put just enough water for now. You can see just enough water to cover them, because I'm not cooking them. I am doing a quick soak and I'm degassing them. Now I've got my heat on high, and because I want to get a good boil going on them. Okay. Now, once they come to the boil, I will cook them for about, probably 5 or 6 minutes. And at which point then I will drain them into the colander, and then I will rinse them with cold water. And then I will put them back in the kettle, cover them with cold water again, and which will be more cold water than this, and then I will begin the cooking process. Now, if you want to cook the whole bag, that's great, but make sure you use a larger kettle, okay? Now, I wanted to show you something. When I have a plastic bag of rice or whatever item like this, usually beans, I cut the top off of my bag, and then I just take the top that I cut off, and I use that to tie around the top of my bag to seal. That way I don't need a separate tie or anything. I just use that. And then when I want to open them, I just untie it, and it works out great. That's just a helpful hint. Tip of the day right there, I'll tell you. Okay, so I'm going to get this heat up on here. I'm going to get it to going, and then I'll be back and I'll show you where we're at as far as what it should look like before you're ready to drain it, okay? Now, this shouldn't boil over because there's not that much water in there. I just want enough water to get the boil going, okay? And don't forget, we're not cooking them yet. We're just degassing them, okay? All right. So make sure you stay with me, and I think this will really, really help you with your food preparation and economical, wholesome meals. Simple food, simple life, and you can't get simpler than this. Okay, I'll be back. All right, here we are. This has taken about 5 minutes or so to come up to the boil, and you can see that it's boiling pretty vigorously, and that's what we want. Now, depending on your burner, you can turn it down if you want to, that's fine, but I started mine on high. Now I've got it at about just a little under high, and so I'm going to let this boil now for about 5 or 6 minutes. And what's happening here, you see the film, that foam that's coming up to the top. That's what we want. It's cooking the enzymes out of the gas causing enzymes out of the beans, and so that's what we want to have happen. Okay, so I'm going to let it cook for a few minutes until there's a lot of that foam on the top, and then I will pour them in a colander and rinse them, and then I will show you what that looks like. All right, I'll be back. Okay, I hope you can see what the beans look like after they have been boiled for those few minutes and rinsed. Do you see how little hulls, skins are starting to come off of there? And so you can see they're not cooked. They're hard. If I squeeze it, I can't break it because they're still very hard. They're not cooked by any means. But now we're going to cook them. So I rinsed them extremely well. And I also rinsed my pot. I cleaned my pot out too because I'm starting fresh. Okay? So now I'm going to put them in. I'm going to cover them with some water. And I'll show you what that looks like because we want to make sure there's ample water to cook the beans. Okay? Okay, I returned the rinsed beans to the pan, and I've covered them with water, and you can see I have a lot more water on them this time than I did previously. But hopefully not enough to boil over. I have my my heat set on high, and so I'm just going to start the cooking process. Now, to cook the beans, it can take about, probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. It kind of depends, but you don't want to start cooking your beans and then go away and leave them. You need to stay home. There's nothing worse than scorched beans, I can tell you. It's very bad. And you will have wasted all of your time, effort, and money. So, okay. Now, usually it calls for salt to be added. When I'm cooking them this way for food preparation, I don't salt them. I think because, I don't know, I just think that it's unnecessary, okay? I really, I just think it's just not necessary. And if you're going to add them to other dishes that it's for your food preparation, you may not want to salt them. If you salt them, then when you put them in a freezer bag, mark on the bag that they are salted. Or if you put other seasoning in there, make sure that you mark on the bag that they are seasoned, so that you don't grab them and put them in something where you don't want all that salt or seasoning or spice, okay? All right, so here we go. And when we come back, we're going to, I'll show you when they're done what we're going to do with these beans. Now, because you don't want to stand here and watch them cook, do you? I don't. If the water gets low, be sure and add some more water to it. Just add hot water. And that's what I do. Just make sure they don't boil dry. And keep your boil to like a simmer, okay? All right. We're going to come back, and I'm excited about this because I think this is going to go a long way to help you keep some food preparation in your freezer for meals for your family and just for you. Okay, we'll be back. Hello, it's been an hour and a half since I started cooking these beans. And just so you know, periodically I did have to add water to the beans so they wouldn't boil dry. And I did not, though I started them on high, I reduced the heat and I adjusted the heat as needed. Now, you can use a lid on your beans while you're cooking them. That helps to speed up the process a little bit. But just be aware that if you do, you're going to need to turn your heat down very low because you run the risk of your beans boiling over. So these beans are done, and you notice they're not mushy, okay? They're in their, pretty much in their whole state, which is what we want. And I want to show you, I'm just going to take a slotted spoon here, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to put some in a bowl just to demonstrate to you what your beans should look like. Okay? Now, see the bean here? Now watch, when I press on it, see? It's soft, but not mushy. There's still some nice thickness and some nice bulk to it. That's what I'm looking for, bulk. So that's what you're looking for. You don't want them to be mushy. And if they're just slightly underdone, that really isn't a big deal, because if you're going to put these in soups or other dishes, they'll finish cooking very, very quickly. So if they're a little bit underdone, it's not that big of a deal. Now these are plain beans. There's no salt in them whatsoever. No seasoning whatsoever, because these are food preparation, ingredient preparation, let's put it like that, for the freezer. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to drain these in a colander. I'm going to put them in a large, oversized bowl where I know they have lots of space to cool down. And I'm going to let them cool. I will rinse them with cold water, which will take off some of the starch so that they don't get gloppy. Yes, that's a technical term. It's called gloppy, or stick together. So I will rinse them with some cold water. And I know that some of you may think, well, I'm getting rinsing off the nutrition, but in actuality, because this is for food preparation, you are going to put back a lot of the nutrients that the water comes out of. And you know what? Sometimes the water is not that pleasant anyway. Just depends on what you're cooking them for, okay? If I were going to do beans and ham, beans and bacon, and I'm going to cook them and serve them right then, I would just cook them in the water, and the water would get flavored and everything would be hunky-dunky. But I'm not doing that. This is a different method here, okay? All right, so I'm going to drain these, rinse them, and then I will, after they're cooled off, I'll show you how I prepared them for the freezer. Okay, we're almost there, and like I said, it took an hour and a half. My granddaughter is in graduate school, one of my older granddaughters, and she, on a weekend, she's very, very busy, but sometimes on the weekend she has time to do some food preparation. So this would be perfect for her, because she can prepare these while she's just hanging out around her place and, you know, doing other things. So, all right, I'm going to do that, and then I'll be back and show you what that looks like. Okay, I've drained the beans, and I want you to see I have them sitting in a deep bowl, and the reason for that is because I'm letting gravity do some work, and I'm allowing the beans to drain even more, and that's a lot of water. So the reason I'm doing that is because I want the beans to be as dry as possible, or to have the least amount of moisture on them as possible when they go into the freezer bag, okay? So you can just let them sit, and they're pretty cool already because I have rinsed them in cold water. And so I'm going to simply let them drain and let gravity do the work for me. And then I will rinse this bowl. I'm going to pour these in the bowl so that they can continue to cool a little bit more, and then I'm going to scoop them up and put them 1 cup at a time in freezer bag, and then I will mark on the freezer bag how much is in that bag, okay? All right, so I'll come back and I'll show you the finished product, okay? All right. Thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it, and I think this is going to be a big help to you. Okay, I want to show you something. Now, I've drained the beans. I put the beans into a large bowl. That gives me room to work, and they're pretty well drained, okay? Now, this is a nice tip for you. I've taken my freezer bag, I've marked it before I fill it, and I've opened it up and turned down the cup so that no debris gets on the zipper part and hurts the seal, prevents it from sealing properly. And then I just put it in this bowl, and that stabilizes the bag for me. So I'm able to scoop up the beans, and I have my trusty measuring cup here, and it helps me to scoop up the beans and get them in the bag with as little mess as possible. Okay? All right. So I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Now, what that 1 pound of beans rendered for the freezer is 4 cups in this bag and 2.5 cups in this bag. If I would have had a smaller quart-size freezer bag, I would have used it to put in the rest. Now, you're probably wondering why I didn't just pack this all in this bag. The reason is I want them to lay flat and in the freezer. I want them to freeze flat because once they're frozen, I can loosen them up. I can remove them a cup at a time. They're not going to be all glommed together. So, because I may not want to use the whole bag, I just may want to use some of them, okay? So, that's the reason I'm doing that. Now, these will lay flat in the freezer. Once they're frozen, I will loosen them up, and just like I did the rice, and then I can take out however much I want, okay? All right, that's it. I hope that you have gleaned something from this. I found it to be very useful for myself, and I think that it would be a great way to do some food ingredient prep in your own home. Okay? All right. Thank you for watching. If you like it, subscribe, and be sure to give me a thumbs up, okay? I appreciate your time so much, and your time, taking the time to do this. And you know what? You can do it. I got faith in you. You know that. I love you. And you just remember, little is much when God is in it. Okay, see you later. Bye.